Good vibe. Had a good practice today. Day off yesterday. So good. I think we're in a good spot. We're looking forward to tipping it off. I know that we're tired of playing against each other, and so it should be fun.
We got the news yesterday with Max reevaluating. It's been 6 weeks. Just how does that kind of affect the game?
Unfortunate. I just, you always, first and foremost, you always feel terrible for the player, right? Like, especially Max, as hard as he works, and what a vital cog he is for this team. But one of the things we did, we have great depth, and a lot of teams could be affected by this, but we got some guys that can step in and will help us till he gets back.
One of those guys is Dean Wade. We saw the other night. Just what does Dean give more opportunities for other players, make other players better on the court in the lineups?
Well, it starts with his defense. It starts there. Gives us. You got Dean, Jared, and Evan. You start those three together right off the bat. You're good defensively. So that's the most important thing. Then offensively, he's versatile. He obviously can shoot the three, but as you can see, we're using him as a cutter a little more. Reads the game really well, really smart. He's a good connector for that group.
Is that how you're planning on going with Dean?
We'll see. We haven't decided yet. Obviously, we like Caris too. We'll just have to see. We have to study Toronto a little more. What fits that matchup best, I think, is where we're at right now.
Is that how you plan on going for the 6 weeks based on matchups, or do you want somebody consistently in that starting group?
Probably matchups. I think matchups.
And then you mentioned Dean playing the three. Like, with him and Caris as options, like, how much do you think about, like, trying to keep guys in specific roles so that's not a constant fluctuation?
Yeah, no, it's because if you start Dean, right, then you have to think about what's after that, right? What do those secondary lineups look like? And then if you want to go small, at him at the 5, what does that look like? So starting him takes away some options. Because he can play both big positions, so we got to think about that. So again, I think it's going to be really dependent on who we play and read it off that.
What type of challenge can that be to balance not just who starts based on the matchup, but also the ripple effects that it has?
Yeah.
We have to think about that maybe changing on individual nights.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. Everyone, first thing they think, well, what does the starters look like? What do those second rotations look like? What do the third rotations look like? So that's a big part of the decision, because we have that balance, right? We can't have the starting lineup really strong and then kind of 2 lineups down and we're weak. We got to find that balance, and that's defensive and offensive balance.
Do you think that changes at the end of the rotation too? You talked about 10, maybe 11 max. Does those last couple spots change based on matchups?
No, not necessarily. It's more who they're going to play with, right? Ty and George. You have to construct lineups around your 9th and 10th guy too, if that makes sense. So, that's all. It's really our main job as coaches is to figure out those things, and then also looking at the opponent. We obviously look at their rotation. How are they rotating? A little more difficult early in the season because not sure exactly how Toronto's going to rotate and do their rotations. So 10, 15 games in, it gets a little easier with the opponent rotations.
I know you mentioned celebrating the depth and liking the guys that you have to potentially replace Max, but the numbers for this team last year with and without Max were pretty drastic. So how do you characterize just how much of a blow this is to you guys early on?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you lose one of your top players, it's a blow. It's just, it's just, I mean, again, feel bad for him, and it right off the bat, it makes us, we have to kind of adjust right away, and that's not ideal, but this is also the league, right? And I think probably look across the league, there's probably 6 or 7 teams in the same boat. And sometimes it happens in the beginning of the season, sometimes it happens quarter of the season through. So this just hit us right away. But it's a big blow because he's an important cog in our team.
Caris talked last year about being comfortable in certain situations and not being like pulled away from a certain role that he has, especially being the sixth man. How difficult is that to have him kind of fluctuate?
I texted him the other day. I said, "Here we go. You got to do it all. You might start. You might come off the bench." I think Caris has accepted that role, and he's done it well for the Cavs. I know in Brooklyn he did it well for us. He understands that's his role. He's the ultimate team guy, ultimate high character player, and I don't worry about him too much. Now for us is really to find that niche. We got to find it for him, like what that looks like with Max out, and that's he's obviously a really good ball handler. So how does that work with Darius and Donovan? What big is best for him to play? All that stuff comes into play.
You had touched on Dean and Caris being out for Max, all these out, replacing Max and stuff like that. But you had also mentioned this matchup base. Can you expand a little bit maybe on all options kind of being on the table, just like plug and play, like those in your rotations and lineups?
Yeah, you're saying it could be more than Dean and Caris. Yeah, we could throw that out there. I think it's not necessarily those two. It could be somebody else. But again, we have to figure that out. That's what we're in the process of doing right now.
You guys
doing
open
combinations of guys that you really like playing together right now. Two guys, three guys together that you like to mix.
Yeah, we're not like we know what's worked in the past, and that's valid, right? You have to respect that. You have to trust that. But we also have to find areas of where maybe something hasn't worked in the past, but maybe with a different style of play it could work. So we're kind of figuring that out. Definitely leaning on the history, but also if you looked at our rotations, we've definitely done some different things. So
You start with 3 games in 4 nights, including a back-to-back.
yeah.
Are you planning on doing anything in terms of like managing minutes for this stretch coming up, or do you feel like the guys that are available?
No, we're available. Yeah, I think right out of the gate, we're in a good place. Physically. So we just got to be ready. But I don't think there's any managing minutes or any of that stuff.